The crystal wine glasses clinked as Mom passed around her signature eggnog, the heavy scent of nutmeg mixing with the aroma of roasted turkey. Our family's annual Christmas dinner was in full swing, complete with all the traditional foster family dynamics. "So, Jennifer," Dad began, cutting into his turkey with surgical precision, "still working at that little startup? What do you call it again?" "Quantum Sphere Technologies," I replied evenly, smoothing my simple black dress under the table. "And yes, I am." My sister Katherine smirked from across the table, her diamond engagement ring catching the light as she reached for her wine. "You know, there's still an opening in corporate development at Foster Financial. David could put in a word for you, right honey?" Her fiancé, David Chen, Dad's newest golden child and rising star at the family firm, nodded magnanimously. "Of course. Always happy to help family." "That's very kind," I said, taking a small sip of water. "But I'm quite satisfied with my current position." Mom sighed dramatically, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. "Darling, you have an MBA from Stanford. Surely you could find something more established. You're 32 now, and these startups, well." She gestured vaguely with her fork. I thought about the documents sitting in my briefcase, about the announcement scheduled for tomorrow morning, about the last 3 years of working 18-hour days while my family dismissed my choices. But I kept my face neutral, a skill learned from countless board meetings. "Jennifer's always been stubborn about doing things her own way," Dad commented, his tone carrying the weight of decades of disappointment. "Remember when she turned down the VP position at Foster Financial to join that tech incubator?" "How could we forget?" Katherine chimed in. "It was the talk of the country club for months. The Foster heir apparent, choosing to work in a garage instead of taking her rightful place." I opened my mouth to respond when my phone buzzed. A text from my executive assistant. "Final acquisition papers ready. Board needs immediate signature." "Speaking of work," I said, standing smoothly, "would you excuse me for a moment? I need to take care of something." "On Christmas?" Mom looked scandalized. "Surely your little startup can survive without you for one dinner." As if on cue, Marcus, my EA, appeared in the dining room doorway. He was impeccably dressed in a Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than Katherine's engagement ring. "Ms. Foster," he said professionally, "I apologize for the interruption, but the board requires your immediate signature on the $6.2 billion acquisition documents. The SEC filing deadline is approaching." Mom's fork clattered to the floor. Dad's knife froze halfway through his turkey. Katherine's wine glass stopped midway to her lips. "Did he say?" David started, his corporate lawyer instincts kicking in. $6.2 billion. Dad finished, his voice barely a whisper. I dabbed my lips with my napkin, taking my time. "Yes, that's correct. Marcus, please bring in the papers. We might as well do this here." Marcus nodded and returned with a sleek leather portfolio. As he laid out the documents, I could feel 4 pairs of eyes following every movement. "Jennifer," Mom said weakly, "what exactly is your position at this startup?" I signed the final page with my Morn blank pen, a gift to myself after our first billion in funding. Chief Executive Officer and majority shareholder. I looked up at my stunned family. Did I forget to mention that? CEO? Katherine's voice had risen an octave. But you said you were working at a startup." "We were a startup. 3 years ago." I handed the signed documents back to Marcus. "Now we're the leading quantum computing company in the world, and we're acquiring our largest competitor." I checked my watch. "The announcement goes public tomorrow morning at 9. Dad's face had gone pale. $6.2 billion, that's more than Foster Financial's entire market cap. "Yes," I agreed mildly. "It is." I turned to Marcus. "Please have the team prepare the press release. And inform the board the documents are signed." "Of course, Ms. Foster." He paused. "Should I also inform them about the Google offer?" "Google offer?" David's lawyer mask cracked completely. "They can wait until after the holidays," I said to Marcus. "To my family," I added, "they're quite interested in our quantum encryption technology. The initial offer was $8 billion, but we're holding out for more favorable terms." The silence in the room was deafening. Even the Christmas music playing softly in the background seemed to have faded away. "Now," I said, picking up my fork again, "shall we continue with dinner? The turkey's getting cold." Mom's hand shook as she reached for her wine glass. Dad stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Catherine's perfect composure had cracked like thin ice. The little startup in the garage, it seemed, had grown up. And Christmas dinner would never be quite the same again. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked away the seconds of stunned silence. Through the dining room's bay windows, snow fell softly on the immaculate grounds of my parents' estate, the same estate I could now buy 100 times over. "I don't understand," Mom finally managed, her hand still trembling around her wine glass. "You never said anything about being CEO." "You never asked," I replied simply, taking another bite of turkey. "Every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject to Catherine's wedding plans or David's latest promotion." Dad had pulled out his phone, his fingers moving frantically across the screen. "Quantum sphere technologies, my God. The patents, the government contracts, that was all you. Every bit of it." I nodded to Marcus, who had remained discreetly by the door. "Show them." Marcus activated his tablet, and suddenly the dining room air filled with holographic displays. Quantum computing matrices danced above the Christmas centerpiece, while classified military applications scrolled past the family portraits. "Our quantum encryption system is already protecting 80% of global banking transactions," I explained, watching their eyes track the data. "The NSA uses our quantum radar technology. NASA's next Mars mission will run on our quantum navigation systems." Catherine's perfectly glossed lips parted in shock. But you work in a garage." I couldn't help but smile. "That garage is a quantum computing research facility larger than Foster Financial's headquarters. The industrial complex you drive past on your way to the country club? I own it. All of it." David, ever the lawyer, had pulled up our company's public filings on his phone. "The market valuation, these numbers can't be right." "They're actually outdated," Marcus interjected smoothly. "After tomorrow's announcement, our projected market cap will exceed $50 billion. Mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spilling red wine across her pristine tablecloth. For the first time in my life, she didn't even notice. $50 billion, she whispered. "Give or take a few billion," I confirmed. "The quantum computing market is quite volatile. Speaking of which." I turned to Marcus. "How's our stock doing?" "Up 12% since this morning. The rumors of the acquisition are already hitting Wall Street." Dad's business instincts finally kicked in. "Foster Financial could." "No," I cut him off gently. "You don't have the expertise, the security clearance, or the capital. Besides, I checked my watch. Google isn't the only tech giant interested in acquiring us. Apple called this morning. Their offer makes Google's look like pocket change." Katherine had gone very still, her engagement ring suddenly looking very small. "All those times you couldn't make it to my wedding planning sessions." "I was usually in meetings with world leaders or military generals," I completed her thought. "That weekend I missed your bachelorette party. I was at the White House, discussing quantum defense capabilities." Mom had found her voice again, though it wavered. "But your apartment, your car, you live so modestly." "Because I don't need a mansion to prove my worth," I replied, meeting her eyes. "My company's technology is reshaping the fundamental nature of computing. We're unlocking the secrets of the universe at the quantum level. What does it matter what car I drive?" Marcus's tablet chimed softly. "Ms. Foster, the Pentagon is on the line. It's about the quantum satellite network. Tell them I'll call back after dinner." I turned back to my family. "Now you understand why I couldn't take that VP position at Foster Financial. I was a bit busy revolutionizing modern technology." Dad's hands were shaking slightly as he reached for his scotch. "Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me?" I asked quietly. 3 years ago at this same table, you called me a disappointment for turning down the family legacy. You said I was throwing my life away on science fiction dreams." The room fell silent again, broken only by the soft hum of the holographic displays still dancing above our Christmas dinner. "The press release is ready for your review," Marcus said, breaking the tension. "And Ms. Foster?" The quantum teleportation test was successful. We made history again today. I nodded, suppressing a smile at my family's collective gasp. Thank you, Marcus. We'll celebrate that particular breakthrough another time. As I returned to my turkey, I could feel the weight of their stares, the sudden, crushing realization that while they'd been dismissing me as a failure, I'd been building an empire that made Foster Financial look like a corner store. The Christmas turkey had never tasted quite so sweet. The dessert course sat untouched, Mom's famous Christmas pudding forgotten as my family struggled to process their new reality. Outside, the snow continued to fall, adding another layer of white to the Foster estate's perfectly manicured lawn. Miss Foster, Marcus approached again, tablet in hand. The board of directors at Foster Financial is requesting an urgent meeting. They've learned about tomorrow's announcement. Dad's head snapped up. How could they possibly? Wall Street rumors spread fast, I said, dabbing my lips with the monogrammed napkin. Especially when a quantum computing company is about to revolutionize financial technology. Katherine's fiancé David, finally finding his corporate lawyer voice, leaned forward. Your quantum encryption system, Foster Financial could. Already has multiple offers from Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and every other major bank, I completed his thought. They're all desperate to upgrade their outdated security systems. I paused, letting that sink in. Foster Financial isn't exactly at the top of our priority list. Mom's hands fluttered to her pearls. But we're family. Family. I couldn't quite keep the edge from my voice. Last month at the country club, you told Mrs. Vanderbilt I was finding myself in some computer thing. Dad's been telling his golf buddies I'm going through a phase. And Katherine, I turned to my sister, you've been using my startup story as a cautionary tale at your charity luncheons. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's tablet chimed again. The NSA director is calling. It's about the quantum radar deployment. Tell them I'm in a meeting, I replied, not taking my eyes off my family. A rather important one about legacy and consequences. Dad cleared his throat, his business instincts warring with his pride. Jennifer, surely we can discuss some form of collaboration. Actually, I cut in smoothly, we should discuss Foster Financial's cybersecurity vulnerabilities. My team identified several critical weaknesses in your systems last month. The color drained from his face. What? I gestured to Marcus, who pulled up a detailed security analysis on his holographic display. Your entire digital infrastructure is obsolete. One quantum computer could break through your encryption in approximately. I checked the data, 3 minutes. That's impossible, David protested. We just upgraded our security last year. To systems that were outdated before they were installed, I corrected. The quantum computing revolution isn't coming, David. It's here. And companies that don't adapt will become obsolete. Katherine's perfectly manicured hands gripped her wine glass. Is that a threat? No, I said softly. It's a reality. One that Foster Financial's board of directors is probably discussing right now. As if on cue, Dad's phone buzzed with an urgent message. His face went ashen as he read it. Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning, he whispered. They want to discuss a potential acquisition. Let me guess, I smiled slightly. By a company with superior quantum computing capabilities. Mom's composure finally cracked completely. You're buying Foster Financial. No, I shook my head. I don't need to. By this time next week, every major financial institution will be scrambling to implement our quantum security systems. Those that don't. I let the implication hang in the air. Marcus approached again. The contracts are ready for the global banking implementation. And Apple just raised their offer to $12 billion. Dad's Scotch glass froze halfway to his lips. $12 billion. A starting point for negotiations, I said dismissively. But more importantly, a sign of how valuable quantum computing has become. I stood, smoothing my dress. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a video call with the European Union about quantum infrastructure. As I moved to leave, Mom found her voice. Jennifer, wait. The Christmas gifts are under the tree, I completed her sentence. Though you might want to open the envelope first. It contains Foster Financial stock options. You'll want to exercise them before tomorrow's announcement. I paused at the door, taking in the scene one last time. The forgotten Christmas pudding, the scattered papers showing Foster Financial's vulnerabilities, the shell-shocked expressions on my family's faces. Oh, and Katherine, I added. About that corner office you're having renovated at Foster Financial? Don't bother. The quantum computing division will need that entire floor. As I left with Marcus, I heard Mom's faint voice. I suppose we should cancel her blind date with the Morgan's son. Yes, Dad replied weakly. Something tells me our daughter isn't having any trouble succeeding on her own. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the foyer as I gathered my things, their glow reflecting off the quantum tablet in my hands. Sometimes the best gifts, I thought, are the ones you give yourself, like the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. Merry Christmas, indeed.